A continuation. We have an approval not required for 140 Fisk Hill Road and lot number 1 on McGilpin Road. At 6:35, we'll have the continuation of the public hearing for the modification of site plan at 21 New Boston Road for the Fix Burger Bar. Following that, we'll have the town planner update, old and new business, and then adjournment. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes of Tuesday, November 11th?
I have.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, that's a typo. It's actually November 9th.
Okay,
minutes.
so I knew one was right or wrong.
Sorry about that.
No problem. So we'll back that up, and it's actually Tuesday, November 9th. So we have a little typo on this. We'll take care of that. Other than that, is there anything with it? Okay. Motion then to approve this?
So moved.
Dane, second? Second, Sue. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, nobody?
With the correction presumably, right?
Yeah, we'll make that the 9th. Great. Well, we won't. Janae will. Okay, so we have a couple of minutes before 6:35.
We have an A&R. I'm just trying to unmute.
Oh, no, we do have the A&R. We can go right to that.
There, okay.
Okay, so you want to go over the A&R?
Yes.
Great.
So with us this evening, we have Zachary Glass, and he is the surveyor engineer who did the work for this A&R, in case you have any questions. But this is a plan for George Goulis, Allworth Realty, and the property is located on 140 Fisk Hill Road and McGilpin Road. It's a rather large piece of land, and they are proposing to carve off what is shown as Lot A on the plan that you have before you. And the remaining land has sufficient frontage on McGilpin and on Fisk Hill Road. And the Lot A also has the required amount of frontage. And you can see he also noted the R factor and the upland. So if you have any questions, as I said, Mr. Glass is here, but I would recommend the board endorse the plan as submitted since it meets the requirements.
Very good. Any questions? No? If not, a motion then to allow the clerk to endorse the A&R.
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No one? Very good.
All right, thank you. Chris and Mike. I know, sorry, we pushed you off. Thank you, Zachary, you're all set.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Someone can come pick up the Mylar by tomorrow morning at our office.
Okay, I'll let the client know that it'll be ready for pickup.
All right, great, thank you.
Thanks, have a good evening.
You too.
So we have about 2 minutes maybe before 6:35.
2 minutes? I can just give you the little meeting date update.
Yeah.
So our next meeting is January 11th. We will have one public hearing, and that's for Planet Fitness for a special permit for a sign that exceeds 30 square feet. You've actually seen the design when they came to you
Right.
to renovate the building, and the size is consistent with what was just recently approved with Ocean State. So that will be January 11th. That's all we have so far. The next meeting is January 25th. We're hoping, perhaps, as of January 25th, we'll be able to start meeting across the street again. So all of the archiving project is almost complete, and the new cameras have been installed. So once I talked to Robin yesterday, and we'll be setting the room back up in the coming weeks, and then I believe Bruce has to train his team to film from over there. So
Great.
pretty soon we'll be moving back over there. And that's about all I have.
Okay, and it's 6:35, so we're ready to have the continuation of the public hearing. Do you want to have an introduction and
Yes.
update?
All right. So the board will recall at the last meeting, we were still awaiting architectural plans for what we can now say is the Fix, which was a pleasant surprise, I think, for all. We're very pleased to see who it is. Mr. Covino is here this evening from Niche Hospitality. Mr. Patel and his family, the property owners, are here, as well as Patrick Doherty from Midpoint Engineering, and Jordan O'Connor is the architect. And John Shevlin from PAR Corporation, our peer reviewer, is also here this evening, and I think Ali is logging in, but I haven't seen him arrive yet. So you'll recall at the last meeting, as I mentioned, we still needed to receive the architectural plans. Those plans were submitted. There was a meeting held with the Design Review Committee on Monday, the 6th, I believe it was, and the meeting went very well. The plans were very well received, and the committee approved the plan as submitted with no changes. The material samples are here, and Jordan will go through the plan this evening, and he'll pass around the material samples for you to see those. John Shevlin, you'll recall, had a couple of outstanding questions. One was on the crash data post-Panera and post-Holiday Inn, and that data has been provided to him. And then we also questioned the loading, which we found out it's basically going to happen before hours of the restaurant operation because of the limited space. But Mr. Shevlin asked Mr. Doherty to bring an exhibit this evening and explain to the board how the trucks will be able to maneuver in for deliveries. And so he has brought that this evening. If the board, barring any questions or concerns from the board, staff has completed their review. John is here to talk about his review, and we'll be recommending approval with conditions at the end of the meeting this evening.
Very good. Okay. Do you want to have the...
Jordan or Pat, whoever wants to start.
Good evening, I'm Patrick Doherty from Midpoint Engineering.
Great.
I have only a few minor things to inform the board of site plan changes. They were provided in the response to the comments. And then I'll turn it over to Jordan. I think everyone's more excited about listening about the building rather than a few things on the site. But in response to the comments we received at this board and staff comments, I did make a couple of changes to the plan. They're not reflected on the plan, the large plan, but they are in the colored plan that I had handed out earlier. Yeah, comments received at the meeting, we were asked to take a look at providing some crosswalk across the driveway for folks that may be parking in the electric vehicle charging station. So I've added that to the plan. The drive aisle is 30 feet wide, which is kind of oversized. You typically go down to about 24 feet. So we were able to just put a 5-foot sidewalk in along the curb line there, and it connects to the same handicap ramp that brings you to other areas of the site. We were also asked to take a look at one parking space at the end of the row against the building. And, I saw the reason for the comment. If you were backing out straight, you had the curb right behind you. So I've eliminated that one parking space. I did explain at the last meeting that the calculations came out for the exact number of spaces being required as proposed. What we did is, because it's a bit more speculative on the restaurant, we've shown the restaurant being three seats less for the vacant space next to Panera. So the calculations work out. If it ends up being that would need to be more or something else, then we'd have to justify how the operations would work. We've also in the packet provided some truck turning templates on how the vehicles access the service area. I just printed out the full-size tractor trailer truck, because that's the hardest one to get in and out. But basically, as you come in, they can make the turn freely. As they're turning up, I guess towards the west, they are going over a couple of parking spaces before they can back up. But again, as Gene had mentioned, any of the large truck vehicle deliveries, and all the deliveries happen before the restaurant opens. So chances of people being in parking spaces is very limited. The truck turning templates in general are conservative. They show a vehicle going about 5 miles an hour as they're making the turns. So they can't take it tight as radius because it takes time to turn the wheels. So as if you've seen any tractor trailer, maneuvering, or even if you backed up a boat or something, if you stop and crank your wheel, you can maneuver much easier than what's shown on this plan. Again, then leaving, they can make a turn without conflict. I think just over the hatched area of the handicap parking space, and then they can make the turn out of the driveway without conflict. There's a couple of other changes to the plan, or additions to the plan, based on staff comments. One was that we needed to show a grease trap, and we've located that grease trap in the service area near the dumpsters. That will require ultimately Board of Health review for the size and all the details, what get connected to it and whatnot. One other change was I had shown a separate domestic and fire line coming in from New Boston Road, and based on comments, I'm going to have go with one larger line, and the domestic will branch off of that nearer the building. So, that's about I think we covered most of the site in detail, and I'll turn it over to Jordan now, and he can go through.
Great, any other questions on this right now? Also, yeah, go ahead.
Do you want to hear from John Sheldon?
Yeah, John, if you'd like
on
to,
these
any
issues,
comments
and
you'd
then
like to add?
we'll
Sure.
Thank you, Board. John Shovelin from Park Corporation. Yeah, we reviewed the project back in November. They supplied additional information. Our biggest concerns back then were the crash data and for the turning radiuses in the loading zone. Based on the information that Patrick gave for both those backs, they've been addressed properly. The turning radius shows as long as they're there before customers come, they can go ahead and maneuver within the parking lot. As far as the crash data goes, he gave me updated information, looked at the severity of the crashes and compared it to the Mass DOT crash rate, and it is below what the requirements are at this point. So they have addressed all my concerns right now as related to traffic and stormwater.
Great, very good, thank you. Ready? Sure.
Good evening. My name is Jordan O'Connor. On behalf of Michael Corvino, we're very happy to present the fix to Sturbridge. So the boards are arranged, it's probably in the same order in your packet, but basically from the outside to the inside to a little bit more detail. So I'm going to present it in that manner, and if there's any questions as I'm speaking, please interrupt me and we'll go right through it. So what you see on the first image is taken from fairly close to the hotel, looking back up the driveway to give context to Panera as well as the proposed new building. So the concept behind the fix is to create an iconic New England barn. It's a simple shape. It's identifiable from a distance. The part of the design wants to be able to be recognizable from Route 20, which is fairly far away, but it also gave us an opportunity of having one kind of larger mass serve as the home for the fix. So you're going to see in some of the later images the reason for some of the shapes and the locations of the windows and so forth, but it's intended to be a post and beam barn, and it also has some aspects of that same kind of colonial timber framing structure on the outside as well. Same viewpoint for the most part, still looking towards, kind of from Panera up towards the site. So what you see is a front facade that is the gable shape that's facing the parking lot. You've got some smaller scale, more pedestrian related structures for open air dining. Done for a couple of reasons. One, it brings the building a little bit more onto the site. It's not just an island kind of plunked down. Two, it's nicely sited in the sense that it catches some sun, and it also breaks down the scale of the building to smaller, more scalable, pedestrian scalable elements. And so you've got that kind of element in the front, and it is a barn. It wants to be a barn. So barns like cupolas, barns like dormers, barns like big, hay barn doors. There's no hay barns inside here, but we are offering up a fairly large-scale element that really would have traditionally been an opening for getting the hay wagons in. I live next to a dairy farm, so I know how big those doors are. We're replacing those with glass. And it'll make a little bit more sense on the inside when you kind of see the floor plan, but there's a reason for it in terms of usefulness for us as well. So I think what I'd like to do, unless there's questions, to kind of go through some of the other elements on the plan, and then also some of the details on the elevations, and then we'll get into the materials. We can always come back to this stuff as well. Okay. So, floor plan. The orientation of the sheet that you just saw was kind of from down here looking back up. So the small squares here that are gray are those same posts that are holding up the roof of that open-air patio. The orientation still towards the parking lot. I'm in the parking lot. Here's the big glass front entry. The yellow that you see is on-grade dining area. On the back of the building, you've got back of the house. You've got kitchen. You've got needed restrooms and so forth, and we're kind of building that into the core. It's the perimeter that's the most important for us. The other thing I'll call your attention to that makes a difference is the original footprint of this building that was planned before we were involved was much more of a rectangle, just a straight rectangle. And what we've done right in the rear is broken that apart. We've made it a smaller element in terms of footprint, and you'll see back on the elevation that also gives us the ability to have that as a small shed as opposed to just a continuation of the same overall barn massing to help break it down. Let's see. Well, a set of stairs going up here. Up here, a little landing, and continue up in the center. And that yellow area there, you can picture a barn has great two-story, one and a half story element. So that's what we have. We have a mezzanine that is centered on the stairs, centered on those windows. Another reason for those windows as well, in terms of their location. The back in the gray area is utility room. It's an enclosed utility room. We're going to be ducting the mechanical equipment, so there's not a mushroom on the outside. Much like Panera, when you go up 21 New Boston, you can start to see, because the grade of the road grows, you can start to see the back of Panera pretty well. The road where we're at is even higher, so we've got that much more of an issue in terms of visibility of mechanical equipment. So it's enclosed. Too many words to say, by the way. Enclosed. Down below, also enclosed, we're taking advantage of the fact that we could use some extra space. We're not growing the footprint, and we're having a partial basement that'll help us out in terms of coolers and some auxiliary kitchen prep. Hey, it's a big black roof. Materials that you see, we are proposing to use some standing seam black metal roofing. A barn traditionally is a rustic, is a rustic use. It's a utilitarian use. It's not a house. It's not just a big house, and we wanted to treat it with a little bit larger scale materials that were more indigenous to a barn. And I'm not saying that Sturbridge back in the day was pumping out standing seam metal roofs. But many roofs now are sheathed with standing seam, and we'd like to do it as well. The accents of cupolas and dormers are just that. They're small elements, but they're important, and we're hitting them with some copper-like material to give some accent to it, and also to break, to visually have some interest. This is a section cut through it. So if you cut through the building and we're looking towards the parking lot, and just took a straight section through it, on this side, you've got the open-air patio. You've got this as the mezzanine. You're looking towards the west, so now you're inside the building, but you're looking out through those windows. And you've also starting to see the post and beam that's inside, relationship of mezzanine to the, I know it's more an outside adventure here, but there's a reason for why things happen on the outside to they're justified by the function inside. So the cupolas offer some light inside and will offer some light outside, actually. The second sheet that you saw was a three-dimensional rendering of this facade. So you're seeing it more realistically drawn in terms of its scale, in terms of a small gable with an exposed post and beam of oak, the dormers, cupolas up above, and when I mentioned about that back area that we had kind of cut a little bit so it wasn't all one big mass, that's what you're starting to see back here is that shed. So it gives us an opportunity to have it be a little bit smaller and also not be a two-story element. If you're in the parking lot looking towards the building, that's the facade where you've got the glass that I've been talking a lot about, as well as some smaller punched openings, cupolas, and dormers. So this is the north elevation, and you've got the same kind of rhythm of the dormers, the more punched windows on this side because you're not on the patio side, and you've got the mirror image of what was happening on the south side. So I'll call attention to the grills here, as well as these grills here, which is on the east elevation. That's where the venting takes place, intake and outtake of the mechanical equipment. So, materials. Do I just pass them out?
Yeah, you just identify them and let us
Sure.
know.
Okay.
That'd be great.
So, standing seam black metal roof. And I talked about the cupola up here, as well as the dormers. We've got some copper-like finish on the material. The white oak in terms of the exposed post and beam. So, stained material. The facade is composed of fiber cement. So the majority of the siding itself is what's known as board and batten, which is kind of a traditional
Nice.
recreation of essentially pine boards with a batten strip to hide the seam, which is dove wing, which is an off-white, and then we've got some trim along the perimeter and also along we're breaking up some of the facade in terms of where you would, because traditionally your boards are only so long. You've got to have some trim. There's a reason for it why we always see it. Your design regulations are well thought out, and we tried to, I think, do our best in terms of respecting the site, but also respecting the legitimate need of playing nice in terms of form, rhythm, and repetition. You know, that there's some repetition. There's 3 dormers, but there's not dormers all the way across. We've got different elements that we're trying to break down trying to break down a big mass into something that's enjoyable both for people that are using it and also for those that are just looking at it as an object saying, okay, that looks nice, and we hope you feel it looks nice too. So, too many words, as always.
Oh, very good. It's a good presentation. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Now you get to ask me questions, and we'll see how well I do.
Sounds good. Jeff, any questions?
I think it's a gorgeous building. Well thought out, no questions.
No questions. Thank you.
It really is a stunning building. It really is nice, and the materials are well thought out, really nice. I don't have any questions specifically about the design. I think that's well done. If I may, Charlie, just express a concern that I had spoke at the last meeting about the crash data. And thank you very much for supplying the crash data for the past couple of years, since Panera has been there and since the Holiday Inn Express has been there. It is much less than I thought it would be, and it was 0.41, much less than I thought it would be. However, most of the traffic on New Boston Road and on Route 20 in front of that is commuter traffic. It's locals. It's people from Brookfield coming down, people from Sturbridge coming down. And they treat that little intersection there when they're turning to go left and they're going east on Route 20 as one would do in Worcester at Kelly Square. Now, not with the peanut now, but it's that same, it's our local Kelly Square. It's like you hold your breath, you know what you're doing for the most part, and you get through it. Locals know how to do that. And some make it and some don't, and the crash data shows that it's a very low incidence of crash there in the past, since 2014. My concern is those that we're bringing into the area to enjoy the restaurant, the Fix, is going to be people who aren't familiar with that. They aren't commuters. They're coming from a distance. There'll be a specific amount of people here coming from in town, of course, but they'll be drawing a crowd from all over the region. And I remember the first time I went through Kelly Square, you know, I did it with my eyes up when I got into 290, and I was the driver. But it was very difficult. It can be confusing going out there on New Boston Road and onto 20. It really can be confusing. So there's nothing really we can do at this point. There will be a rotary being put in the next several years down, a little bit further down. However, I just want to express my concern about that with 100 and some odd number of people there in the evening, leaving, then some of them may not be familiar with that area. That is going to be, that crash data, I hope not, but I do expect it to go up somewhat, and that's my concern. The crash data that we received from Mass DOT does not go back as far as, I think it's 2008, 2009, and there was folks that weren't familiar with that intersection at all, staying at the motel, and they were confused, apparently, leaving that, and the outcome was not good for them, and both of them perished in an accident there. I don't want to see that happen, so there's probably nothing we can do now except put Jersey barriers across there, and I don't really expect that to happen, and I would not hold up the project, as the project is a wonderful project. I just want to go on record as saying that's my major concern. Otherwise, as far as your design and your plan and everything else, it's really, really well done and really well thought out.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Good. Sue, do you have any comments?
No questions. The beautiful addition.
Mike?
Very well thought through. I just one question. So I see where the venting is for the HVAC. Where will the restaurant equipment for cooking, where will that venting go?
So the...
Use the microphone.
You consider it.
The restaurant equipment, are you talking about the kitchen line?
Like the venting for like the grills or?
Yeah. So in the, let me take that microphone. So in this rear part of the kitchen, the hoods will be here. If you notice that bump out right above is that shed roof. So when that exhausts, it goes directly above into what's called a scrubber. I don't know if you're familiar with those. So that'll actually be inside the building.
Yep.
Sitting there. As the exhaust comes up, it has 4 chambers, so it kind of goes through, it collects grease, collects more grease, odor, and that's how they go, so they're all filtration. So it actually goes in, comes up one side, and then exits out the building on the other side in the utility plenum. So it comes up this way and goes right out. So that's where the exhaust is. Within this area here will be HVAC units, makeup air, so all the, in the kitchen you have the exhaust, and then you have a makeup air unit. Takes fresh air from outside. One of those plenums, it's one of those vents, will bring fresh air in, go into the makeup air unit, and then it goes in and feeds along a vent, along a soffit on the front of the hood.
So when it discharges, will it be fairly odorless?
It'll be completely odorless. It'll be basically clean air.
Yep.
And so we have to, I have these already. So we're at Mezcal in Worcester, I'm in a parking garage. So I'm on the first floor of a parking garage. Yep. So when it leaves the hood, so I'm very familiar with this through captive air. So when it leaves Mezcal, it goes out into a small area that we had for parking. We had to kind of build these. We have 2 hoods there. So it goes through this long, it's it's probably, 12 feet long, and there's 4 chambers, so we actually go, there's stainless steel filters in the first 2, so we can take those out and clean them ourselves, and then the next 2 for odor and air quality, those are filters we buy and change every 6 months. By the time they leave there, they're completely odorless, it's just clean air.
Awesome.
So it's called a scrubber, so it really scrubs this greased air by the time it comes outside, so when it leaves, by the time it leaves here, you wouldn't even know it.
Yeah, that's great. That was my question, was just the concern, because it's residential back there.
Yep.
What kind of
Yeah.
odor they may get, which is great to hear.
Yeah.
There won't be any, so that's perfect.
It's much more expensive in the beginning to buy the equipment, and then the filters are at like $4,000 annual expense. That's it.
Great, it's a great design.
Cool, thanks.
Good question, thank you.
Yeah, we like it.
Very good, thank you. Gene, do you want to go over the report and the recommendations?
Should I see if anything's on?
Oh, sure.
Is there anyone on the line that would like to speak about the project proposed for 21 New Boston Road for the new restaurant?
Okay, and I should also open up for comments from anyone else in the public that would like to make any comments. All set?
Right, so as I mentioned at the, as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we've completed our staff review, and I would recommend that the board approve the project with the following conditions. Do you want me to go through?
Why don't you go through quickly?
Sure.
Good, just for the public.
So I have provided the conditions last night to everybody. I apologize for the delay in getting the report out, but it was as quick as we could do it. And the applicant has no concerns with the proposed conditions.
Great.
So they are as follows. Number 1, all conditions of approval on the planning board notice of decision, special permit, and site plan approval dated December 17th, 2014, and the waiver of site plan issued on January 28th, 2018, remain in effect except as may have been modified by these plans and conditions. 2, all construction and site improvements shall be in conformance with the plans submitted and approved by the planning board. 3, approval is limited to the use requested in the application. Any deviations from this proposed use will require further approval. 4, all final sign designs, locations, and color schemes are subject to review and approval by the Design Review Committee. A special permit may also be required for any signs that exceed the standards allowed in the bylaw. 5, all state and local zoning bylaws, building codes, and regulations must be adhered to. 6, all other necessary permits must be obtained prior to the start of construction. Number 7, the site shall be kept in a neat and orderly condition throughout the construction process. 8, exterior construction shall only occur during the hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Friday, and 8 a.m. to noon on Saturday. No exterior construction shall occur on Sundays or state holidays as follows: New Year's Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. 9, the applicant shall notify the planning department 48 hours prior to the start of construction. 10, an emergency contact phone list with at least 2 names and numbers on it shall be supplied to the Sturbridge Police Department to be used by dispatchers in case of an off-hour emergency prior to the start of the project. The list must be updated whenever necessary for the duration of the project. 11, all excavation and trenching for new utilities will be in accordance with the state trenching regulation 520 CMR 14, excavation and trench safety. The site shall be secured the site shall be secured as necessary during construction, 12, appropriate erosion controls must be in place prior to the start of construction. Special attention shall be paid to areas downslope of the work area. 13, an anti-tracking construction entrance is required to prevent tracking of soils onto the site drive and ultimately onto New Boston Road and Route 20 so that no soils enter storm drains. 14, 2 copies of as-built plans shall be provided to the planning department after completion of construction.
Very good, thank you. Could we have a motion then to approve the modification of site plan with those conditions?
So moved.
Molly?
Second.
Jane, second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, no one. Very good. Congratulations, thank you very much. Great project, good luck with it. Thank you very much for coming in.
I'd like to also thank Jean for her help during the process as well.
Very good, thank you.
You're welcome.
for administrative.
Okay, anything else in your report, Gene?
I have nothing else.
Okay. Go to old business, new business? Jeff, do you have any old business?
Happy holidays.
All right.
Enjoy it.
Yes.
Dane?
I've got two quick items.
Sure.
Gene, you mentioned on Draper Woods that you had a punch list going.
Yes.
I was walking it the other day. There's a lot of soil erosion from the lot that's under development towards the end, and one of the catch basins was pretty clouded up, didn't have a silt sack in it, so
Okay.
they might need to clean that up.
All right, thank you.
The other item is on 148 at the end of Clark Road. There was a building that had come in for a pizza place and an apartment a while ago
Yes.
that didn't really happen. We had mentioned a while ago that they had started some other activity on that. It's increased substantially. We've got a lot of equipment and materials, and I'm not sure what they're doing or what the plan is there, or if you've talked to them. I just
They-
wanted to raise that.
So I did speak to them after the last meeting, and they said that they did have, one of their cousins was storing some equipment in the shed there, or the little garage, I guess, on premise. So they have been, as of late, stepping up activity to obtain their permits to do the conversion. But I will definitely follow up on that with the zoning enforcement officer and just have him take a look and see what's going on.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gene. Wally, anything else?
No.
Sue?
All set, thank you. Merry
That's-
Christmas.
Okay, very good. Motion then to adjourn?
So moved.
All right.
All in favor? Very
See you
good.
next year.
All right. Merry Christmas all, thank
Merry
you.
Christmas.